Hmm. Never saw this one before.
The Polybius arcade game is one of the most enigmatic and mysterious arcade games of all time. It's been the subject of many urban legends, conspiracy theories, and claims of mind-altering effects of players. To this day, the legend of Polybius continues to fascinate gamers and enthusiasts of arcade culture and is featured in several types of media, from Stranger Things and Loki to Farming Simulator and even The Simpsons. Polybius is an alleged arcade game that was supposedly released in the early 1980s in Portland, Oregon. According to the urban legends, the game had a sinister effect on players, causing them to suffer from seizures, amnesia, and nightmares. The game is said to have been developed by a shadowy government agency or a mysterious organization known as the Men in Black. However, there is no concrete evidence that Polybius even existed, and the urban legends surrounding it are likely just that, legends. Nevertheless, the myth of Polybius has become a popular subject of discussion among gamers and enthusiasts of arcade culture. Some modern recreations of the game have been created based on the rumours and stories that have circulated over the years. These are not considered to be authentic versions of the game. According to the legends and prior accounts, the game was said to have numerous disturbing and unusual effects on the player, including seizures, amnesia, nightmares, and more. In this video, we'll explore the history and the mythology of Polybius, the supposed symptoms, and his mysterious backstory. The origin of Polybius is still unclear. There are a plethora of different theories about how the game came about, some claiming that the story first appeared on the internet forums in the early 2000s. Others claim that the myth dates back to the 1980s, which would line up with the supposed release date of Polybius. However, a majority of the stories are linked to Portland, Oregon, where some versions of the legend suggest that the game was only distributed to a handful of arcades before mysteriously vanishing weeks later. Other theories suggest that it was created as a form of viral marketing or a social experiment to test the power of rumors and urban legends, while some just put it down to exaggeration. For the purposes of simplicity and to avoid this video being hours long, we're just going to run with the original story from Portland. In 1981, it was uncommon for a new arcade game to be released. The main trailblazers of the gaming industry were going strong and dominating the market, and competitors were scared of drowning in the sea of the ever-popular Pac-Man. However, rumour was spreading of a new game on the block, Polybius. In the majority of the accounts, the game was developed by a company called Sinnes Locken, a word that, according to Brian Dunning, was not quite idiomatic German, which meant that the word was constructed outside of the norms of the German language and grammar. However, it can be directly translated to sense delete, or more commonly known as sensory deprivation. The game had become quite popular to the point of addiction. Any arcade daring enough to invest in these obscure cabinets reported having queues forming around the machines constantly, often resulting in fights over who would play next. However, as time went on, people had begun to realise something was up with the game. Every machine was periodically visited by two men dressed in all black who would come to collect data from the machines to allegedly test the responses to the game's psychoactive effect. Majority of the players had been suffering from a series of disturbing and uncomfortable side effects. Some would complain of minimal symptoms such as night terrors and insomnia, whilst others would suffer from seizures, amnesia, and hallucinations. This all went on for an entire month until one day Polybius vanished without a trace and with no explanation. The earliest confirmed record of the legend is an entry for the title added to the arcade game resource coinup.org. Despite being added on February 6, 2000, the site lists the pages originating in 1998. Which journalist Stuart Brown has stated is due to a database error caused by a lack of input, leading to the default time being used instead of the actual date. The entry mentions the name Polybius and has a copyright date of 1981, which was the original release date in the first story. The author of said entry claims in the description to be in possession of a ROM image of the game, so it's like a digital copy that could be run on any computer. Even to this day, if it did exist, you could emulate it. And they were said to have extracted fragments of text from it, including the 1981 company name, which was Sinnes Locken. The remainder of the information is listed in unknown, and its About Game section describes the rumors that we previously spoke about. Kurt Koller, owner of CoinOp, submitted a message to the video game magazine GamePro about Polybius, which eventually led to it being featured in the September 2003 issue of the magazine as part of a feature story on video games called Secrets and Lies. This was the first known printed mention of Polybius and was responsible for exposing the legend to the mass market audience, and was the main reason of the popularity today. The article had declared that the existence of the game was inconclusive, which helped to spark curiosity and spread the story even further. After this story was published, several people came forward to claim some involvement with the game. In 2006, a man called Stephen Roach even claimed that he was one of the original programmers and that the company had developed a game with very intense and cutting-edge graphics. Roach explained that the arcade cabinets were removed because a boy had experienced an epileptic seizure whilst playing, and therefore the cabinets had to be withdrawn by the company in a panic to dodge a lawsuit. Roach, however, offered no proof for his claims. However, his story added details on gameplay that later inspired a game based on the legend by Rogue Synapse. According to Snopes, Polybius does not exist. The site concludes that the game is a modern-day adaptation of the 1980s rumors of the Men in Black. It led to the hypothesis that the government was hosting some sort of experiment and sending subliminal messages to the players. Magazines and mainstream news of the early 1980s made no mention of Polybius, and aside from mock-up cabinets in games inspired by the myth, no authentic cabinets or ROM dumps have ever been documented. Researchers have differing ideas on when, how, and why the story began. However, author Brian Dunning believes Polybius to be an urban legend that grew out of a mixture of influences in the 1980s. Two arcade players fell ill on the same day in 1981. One collapsing with a migraine after playing Tempest, and the other suffering from stomach pain after playing Asteroids for 28 hours straight in a filmed attempt to break a world record at the same arcade. There are records of the FBI raiding several video arcades in the Portland area after 10 days after this. This is due to the owners being suspected of using the machines for a gambling ring, and the lead up of the raids involved FBI agents monitoring arcade cabinets for signs of tampering and recording high scores. This would therefore be a rational explanation behind the symptoms that were explained in the original Polybius story, and the mention of the Men in Black taking unknown data. Even the name Sinest Lock-in isn't genuine. The name is a combination of two compound words in the German language that would not be used together in any circumstance, and were instead the combination of two words in an English to German dictionary. Also, according to internet writer Patrick Kellogg, players who have played or seen Polybius in the 1980s may actually be recalling a shooting game called Cube Quest, which was released in arcades in 1983 and played from a Laserdisc. Kellogg praises Cube Quest's revolutionary visuals and explains that the game was often taken out of arcades for maintenance due to the frequent breakdowns of Laserdisc players. The evidence against Polybius existing is further shown by video game journalist Stuart Brown, who disagrees with the notion that Polybius existed in the 1980s, arguing instead that the legend began in 2000s is an intentional hoax by Kurt Koller. Brown states that there is no evidence of the Polybius myth existing before 2000 and suggests that claims of the game's existence in the 1980s were invented to make Koller's hoax more convincing. Brown also notes similarities between the font used in Polybius and the two Williams Electronics arcade games, Bubbles and Robotron 2084. Even though no solid proof of his existence can be found, the tale of Polybius continues to captivate and engross individuals. His legend has appeared in multiple forms of media, and various modern versions of the game have been fashioned from hearsay and narratives that have circulated throughout the years. Despite the absence of concrete evidence, the enigma of Polybius persists as one of the most fascinating urban legends of all time.